Hi, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of A Real Point of View. And we're here on Google Plus, and it also links to YouTube and our YouTube channel under A Real Point of View. I'd like to introduce my co-host for the evening. We have the movie maven, Miss Karen D., and the Must See Movies film critic, Mr. Larry Hemkowski. Hi, Karen. Hi, Larry. How you guys?
Good. You?
I'm good.
How you doing, Karen?
I'm okay. I'm a little snowy right now.
Yeah, Karen, for those of you out there who are experiencing this blizzard that's happening on the East Coast, Karen's right in the thick of it because she's in the East Coast, and Larry and I are a little bit too far west to be affected by it, at least not directly affected by it. So we're glad that Karen was able to hang out with us tonight. So why don't we go ahead and get this ball rolling? Sadly, a really wonderful and popular actor has passed away recently, and that's the focus for our being here tonight, which is to remember and talk about some of the films that Mr. Alan Rickman was involved in. So I'm going to, I guess we're all three of us going to talk periodically about some of the films that Alan Rickman was in, our impressions of him as an actor, and some cool stuff like that. So Karen, we'll start with you if that's okay.
Sure.
Any favorite films by Alan Rickman that you liked, that you were impressed by? And what do you think about this guy as an actor?
I have two favorite films by Alan Rickman, and I guess I'll start out by first saying that Alan Rickman has been one of my favorite actors for probably the last 25 years or so, or really even more than 25 years. I think he just seems to me to be one of those consummate actors, and it's not because he puts on a lot of affectations necessarily, or even because there's some actors that are known for like so-called chameleon qualities. Johnny Depp comes to mind, but that's not what I think of when I think of him. He just seems to get inside the skin of a character, he's very good at getting to the motivations and expressing those motivations. So I really love that about him, and I love him as an actor because he's so skilled. He's equally skilled at comedy as well as drama, and it takes some real acting chops to be able to do that. There's some actors that are really good with comedies, but they don't necessarily fare that well in dramas. There's some actors that are awesome in dramas, and they don't necessarily fare that well in dramas, but in comedies. But Alan Rickman was equally adept at both. The two films that come to mind immediately as my favorites for him, the first one is Die Hard. The first one, the original Die Hard, 1988, starring Bruce Willis.
Mm-hmm.
And I just loved him in that, and I had no idea who that man was. And in fact, it was a premiere. It was his American premiere. It was the first movie that introduced him to American audiences. I think he was relatively well known in London, England, where he worked. He was definitely well known as a stage actor, but Die Hard brought him to the attention of American audiences, and he played the villain in Die Hard, and he was Hans Gruber. So he sort of was this German guy who just was the most sinister, delicious villain ever, and it was just so much fun. And the electricity between Bruce Willis's character in Die Hard and Alan Rickman's character was just, you could practically feel it. It practically crackled. It was terrific. And as a villain, he he was so sinister because he just seemed so logical and just so reasonable as a criminal. And even when he was masterminding the killing of people for no good reason other than that they'd gotten his way, it just seemed, just the thing that just had to be done. And yeah, and I just loved his take on that. And in fact, he's even been quoted as saying that he doesn't play villains. He plays people who want something and who do what they need to do to get it. And that's it's the perfect way to approach a villain. There aren't any people who we might label as bad who actually think they're really bad. They think they do these terrible things because they have to do them because of circumstances or somebody made them or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But there aren't very many people in the world that go around saying, I'm really, really bad and evil, so that's why I'm doing this stuff. No, it's not that. I'm doing this for love, or I'm doing this because I need the money, or whatever it is. So he was, I think, a real master at capturing that very human motivation that really drives behavior. And it's not about labeling good or bad. It's about getting to the goal, either getting the money or the girl or the respect or whatever it is. So I thought he was wonderful in that movie. The second movie that I loved him in, one of my favorites, is Sense and Sensibility. And this is a movie that was done, I want to say this was done in 1993 or 4, somewhere in there. It's a movie that also starred Hugh Grant and Hugh Laurie, Emma Thompson, Kate Winslet. It's one of my favorite movies.
Can I interject something quickly? Didn't who are the actresses that you mentioned?
Kate Winslet and Emma Thompson.
Didn't she write Sense and Sensibility?
She was the screenplay writer, and she won an Oscar for her screenplay.
Okay, I thought it was something like that.
Yes, she did. And he played, Alan Rickman played, I'm trying to remember what year this movie was written. Alan Rickman played Colonel, why can't I? Oh, Colonel Brandon. That's what it was. He played Colonel Brandon in Sense and Sensibility. And this particular character was as far away from Hans Gruber in Die Hard as you could get. He played a very honorable, very measured, deeply feeling character who, it was sort of like very much reminded me of kind of Still Waters Run Deep, that character, but very kind and just very thoughtful, considerate, one of these people who sees much but doesn't necessarily say much. This movie was done in 1995. That's what I was trying to find. The movie overall is just very well done. I mean, Emma Thompson took 4 years to write this screenplay, and very painstaking adaptation of the Jane Austen novel, and it's evident the love and the care that went into this adaptation, and the casting as well. Although I don't believe that Alan Rickman was the first choice to play Colonel Brandon, he was by far the best choice. And it just, to me, he was the kind of character that just brought tears to your eyes, because he played a character with just this deep well of sadness. And because of this sadness, he's motivated to do good, to help, and to serve. And when he finds happiness, you're just thrilled for him. That's how much feeling he brings to the character. So those are my 2 favorite movies. He was also in Truly, Madly, Deeply. He played the ghost in that movie, a cello playing ghost, and I loved him in that movie too. But my 2 favorites, Die Hard as the villain, and Sense and Sensibility is Colonel Brandon.
Well, thanks, Karen. We've been trying to show pictures of the different phases that he's been in these different films. So, what about you, Larry? What were your favorite films for Alan Rickman, and kind of give us an overview as what you liked and about him and his role in the films.
Well, that's real interesting. I found that Alan Rickman was an incredible actor and somebody that I enjoyed watching in anything he did. One of my favorite films, it's a little film. And he starred in it. It's about a real event that happened, and a long time ago. No, not long time ago. In 1976, I believe. And it's called it's a real event, something that really happened. And the real event was called the Judgment of Paris. This is important. But prior to that time, Paris controlled the entire global wine market. Some of the oldest contracts in the world, treaties in the world are the wine treaties that allowed Germany to and certain areas, German peoples to make certain type of wines, and the French certain type of wines, and the Italians, and they were never to name something. If I made a Beaujolais, you can't make one. And so on and so forth. And the United States could care less about those agreements. And so finally what they did was they started just naming wines as varietals, which is fine. That's basically it's naming of the grape. And in the actual thing that happened, a California vintner who gives up everything, even his family, to make a decent bottle of wine. Okay, so in this film, Alan Rickman plays. The name of the film was called Bottle Shock, and it came out in I believe 2008. And Alan Rickman plays this owner and proprietor of a wine shop in Paris. And they make fun of it in the dialogue about what is an Englishman doing in Paris trying to sell French wine. And it's fun. And he gets this great idea about going to the United States and learning about what the United States are doing, and then finding a bottle of wine that could actually compete with the French wines. And so he travels and finds this wine. Bill Pullman plays the vintner, and the two of them really don't get along. They don't trust each other at all. But eventually they come together and they make it happen. Chris Pine is in it. He's the vintner's son, and if you're used to Chris Pine being that all-American kid, this film's for you, because he is not an all-American kid. What I love about this film is that there's no evil villain. First of all, there's no evil villain in this. Instead, you have this man who's trying to introduce something new to the world of wine, and he goes out, he finds a bottle of wine, and he brings it and has a blind taste testing with all these Frenchmen. And the French are absolutely convinced that the wine they're chosen as the best bottle of wine happens to be this American wine. And at that moment, in the real world, the American wine scene was suddenly thrown upon the world stage, and not just something that they did over there in the Americas. He does a great job in this film. This is, if you're looking for a 5-star film, this is not a 5-star film. if you're looking for a real actor's film with a lot of great acting in it, this is that film, and he does a great job.
Very good. Okay, did you have another film, Larry, or just that one?
Well, that's my one little film that I like a lot. There are several others. I mean, his Hans Gruber, threw him out on the scene for American film viewers, as Karen so poignantly said. I think in a way he ended up detesting that role because he got in AFI, American Film Institute. He's listed in the top 10 villains of all time.
Right.
So
I saw that.
He would have rather have, gotten a no prize than that prize. But I think what really sums him up and why he was so good at what he did was when he was directing on stage, when he was running master classes, when he was helping other actors, if an actor does their job well, it means that they were listening.
Mm-hmm.
And his whole concept of acting is the art of listening, paying attention, and from there, that's where you get your cues, your clues, and that's where you grow your character. And I think that he exemplified that in all of the roles that he did.
Oh, very cool. Well, to kind of, I guess what they call it, piggyback on you guys' coattails with regard to this extremely wonderful actor. I too had a few movies of his that I really enjoyed a lot more than others. The movie that you mentioned, Larry, I liked that movie. And Karen, yes, it was actually kind of a fun movie, really, to watch. And then with regard to Karen, you had mentioned the Hans Gruber role in Die Hard, which I found to be quite appealing. Really liked him in that movie. I thought he was truly a good presence in that film, and definitely a great adversary for the main character in there. And like you said, I think he did portray the role as a villain as if he was just trying to get what he wanted and to do everything he could to get that. And sadly, being ruthless was part of that motif in that film. And but there was two other films I wanted to mention. One of them, he's not a villain. He's not a villain at all, and that's Galaxy Quest. I really like this movie. This is a
Alexander Dane.
Right. This is a movie where just the premise of the movie, ladies and gentlemen, is that they have these actors who play in this ongoing series of science fiction space hero films, and Alan Rickman's character is the doctor on the spaceship, and he's the medical guy on the spaceship, and it gets to the point where they're trying to keep these characters alive after not actually, having any more movies coming out, and so they're at these different science fiction comms, we'll say, signing autographs and doing like that, and then all the actors are starting to just get kind of sick and tired of it, and then they're thrust upon by these aliens who come up to them and ask them for their help. And then they realize they think it's just another signing situation. They're going to be at another mall opening and things like that, and then they're thrust into the real world of space. And so now they try to understand their role now, because they're actors playing these roles. They're not really these roles, but these aliens think they are. And to help support this situation, they have to truly become the characters with whom they play. And one of the motivations for Alan Rickman's character here is the the sincerity of the aliens wanting their help, so much so that these actors become more than actors. And I think Alan Rickman's role, he was hilarious because he's one of the main characters in the film who does not want to do this.
Right.
He's like, there's no way I'm doing this, you're not getting me to go. It wasn't so much cowardice as it was just lazy, didn't really feel like it, didn't want to do it kind of thing. He just wanted to sign the autographs, make the money, and go home. Well, this movie proves that there's more to life than just living it alone, living it in the ideology that you think it is. There's more to life. There's other things in life, and you can be even more than what you are because of other people. And so I kind of like this movie for that purpose.
It's a fun movie.
Yeah.
And you know, and ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't seen this, and you should, it's fun. The whole thing is based on Star Trek conventions, and
Right.
and it's a total ripoff of not a ripoff, but it's a homage of.
Right.
That's a nicer way of saying it. Of
It's
the
tip
whole
of the hat.
thing. Right.
Yep.
And Alan Rickman, an interesting note, he actually got the book I Am Not Spock, written by Leonard Nimoy, and this is when Nimoy just could not stand even anybody mentioning Spock. He writes this book, and you could tell that he took one aspect of that book and went with it.
Right.
It's fun. One of my favorite lines in the whole thing doesn't come from Alan Rickman. It has to do with Gilligan's Island, and you just got to see this movie. It's fun.
Never give up. Never surrender.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so it gets to the point where this movie is not only funny, it truly grows on you and truly brings you in. And so now you feel like you're with them trying to figure out how to do these things and make this a better situation throughout this whole film. And I just enjoyed the movie for that. It made me feel like I was a part of this, just like them, become a part of this situation and have to figure out on your feet what you need to do in a situation that's so foreign to you that you start doing the desperate things, kind of like you were saying with the other film, Karen. You know, you got to do something to get what you want, and to get what you want here for this cast of quote unquote space heroes is to do the best they can with what they got, and that's not a lot.
And just remember, by Grabthar's hammer, by the sons of Warvan, you shall be avenged.
And that is the running theme throughout the whole film, and it just adds to the hilarity of this film.
It's one of the best comedies to me, really, around. It's one of my favorite comedies. And I remember going to the movies to see this, and I just didn't stop laughing from the time I sat down in my seat until the time the movie was over. It was just awesome. And the whole cast was good. I mean, even Tim Allen was good in this movie. He was very believable as the sort of like, you know, leader thrown in, the Kirk-like character. And Sigourney Weaver was really awesome in this movie too. She was so much fun, and so was Alan Rickman. He was hilarious, absolutely hilarious. Loved him.
Yes, he was one of the people that made the film. He really did. Well, my other film that I had in mind to discuss here was kind of a quirky movie. You know, I'm somewhat of a relatively good fan of Tom Selleck, but more so with his Western roles. He's been in a few Westerns that in the late 90s and that I thought were really, really good, and I really like him in that. Well, this was a little different movie. Tom Selleck is the main character in the film, but now we're talking about not the United States West, we're talking about Australia. So there's a movie out there called Quigley Down Under. This is
1990.
yeah, this is a great film. Um, Probably one of my top 25 films out there, and it basically has a sharpshooter in Tom Selleck who's being hired to come down to Australia, unbeknownst to him, to help rid this quote unquote Western style um, ranch that's out here in the middle of the Australian wilderness. And the owner of the ranch is our good friend uh, Alan Rickman. And Alan Rickman considers himself a big study of Western culture, and also considers himself a very good shooter as well. So he wants to pit himself, first of all, against one of the best riflemen and best sharpshooters in existence at the time, and
You were about
also
to say Galaxy, weren't
I tried to stay away from it
you?
because it's all relative, right?
He
Uh,
plays Elliot Marston in Quigley Down Under.
Yeah, and he's this guy who's really good with a gun himself. So he wants to partially pit himself against Tom Selleck to see who's the best, and he also wants to convince Tom Selleck to stay on and be kind of like a hired gun, like a mercenary, to help them with their Aboriginal issues and Aboriginal problems that they have out on his farm and area, and try to keep other wealthy land grabbers from taking his land. So I like Alan Rickman in this character. In this one, he's ruthless for ruthless sake. It's not just because he wants to a means to an end. He's just not a nice guy. And in this film, he's so convincing at being an evil person that you've definitely got to see the movie. I don't want to say too much about the film if you haven't seen it, ladies and gentlemen, so I'm really urging you to see this film as well. This is a very important film about the West, even though they're in Australia, about good and evil, about good versus evil, and trying to exist in an area and in a situation where it's better to just be a part of the land, part of the surroundings, as opposed to always against it and trying to keep it away from others. That's what this movie is kind of about. But Alan Rickman, I can't stress it enough how he really plays this character, and he's pompous. He's just pretty. He's close to being pure evil in this film, and he's very self-centered, very self-serving type of guy in this movie, and he plays it to the T, and he was very good at it. Now, lastly, I want to mention one other film that Alan Rickman is in. So I'm trying to find films where he was good and bad. It's
You
just
mean
that
playing good and bad characters, or where he was a good and bad actor?
no, he's a good actor in all the characters. He's playing good or a bad character,
Oh, okay.
and basically, this is another one of those characters that actually he plays a mean character, but he takes it to another realm. He kind of takes it over the top a little bit, but so much so that it's fun to watch.
I knew you were going to go for this guy.
You know where I'm going then.
I know exactly where you're going. This is the only thing that this character was the only character that made me sit through this dog of a movie.
What was it actually? Now this is a Kevin Costner film that
Oh my
stars.
God. It was a
that
Kevin
stars,
Costner
Alan Rickman.
disaster.
Yeah, but anyway, it's basically another take on Robin Hood, and we have the fortune of having Alan Rickman in this film as the sheriff of Nottingham,
Yeah.
Thank God he was in this film so we could hear what an actual British accent sounded like, because Kevin Costner doing it was enough to send you running, screaming from the theater.
And Morgan Freeman who's Muslim in the film, where that
Oh.
came from I don't remember, but who's Muslim in the film, also trying to do a British accent was
Oh,
just really bad.
it was
And I
really
like,
bad.
and I know there are people who are not a big Morgan Freeman fans. I actually like Morgan Freeman, but I did not like him in this film.
No.
And I usually like Kevin Costner. He should stick to westerns. He does it.
Yes.
He's in some really good ones. Silverado comes to mind.
Dances with Wolves.
Open Range is probably his best western ever. But let's get away from Kevin for a minute. Let's go back to Alan. Alan takes this role, as you see him pictured here, he takes this role to a next level, another level. In the Errol Flynn Robin Hood, the Prince John character is over the top, and the sheriff is more of a villain and a mean person. But in this film, Alan takes both, almost like the Prince John and the Basil Rathbones of bad character, melds them into one and puts his own little twist on it, and it comes out to be the savior for this film. It really did save this film from getting worse ratings, because
the only person in this movie that was watchable, the only one.
He is absolutely brilliant in that film.
Sheriff George.
Yeah, he was special in this film, and I really liked him in this film. What about you guys? I mean, it sounds like you guys really liked him too in this.
Oh yeah, one I got to tell you, a film that a lot of people like him in is the movie Dogma.
Right. I know, with Matt Damon's movie, yeah.
Yeah, and he actually does a great job in this. It's just too bad the film was not a great film, but he did such an excellent job. It's worth seeing for his role. Another film that he's in that I really liked, it's become a holiday tradition in our house now, is Love Actually.
Uh-huh.
And he does a good job in there. And if you haven't seen his doing the Demon Barber,
him doing the barber. I'm sorry, I wanted to say
Sweeney
this.
Todd.
Sweeney Todd. Oh my God.
Him playing Sweeney Todd is something to really, really watch. I mean, you're looking at him. You're watching a guy who really understands what the craft of acting is all about.
Yes. Sweeney Todd. What a crazy story.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we haven't even talked about how probably the series of movies for which he's best known, the Harry Potter movies, where
he plays
Professor Severus Snape.
Yeah, Professor Snape. Now that's a spooky character. He's exceptionally good in Harry Potter.
And it's probably, what audiences will remember more than probably, all of his other work. He is so strongly connected with Harry Potter because of the Snape character.
But you're making a great point, and at the beginning of the filming of it, when they were doing a lot of stuff, I don't know if they planned it. I hope they planned it, or they stumbled onto it serendipitously. But the whole the balance between Snape and Dumbledore, and when the name of the first actor who played Dumbledore. Oh, come on.
Oh, it was.
I don't know why I'm forgetting this, because he's a brilliant
Harris.
actor. Yes.
Richard Harris.
Richard Harris. The two of them had such great chemistry when they're on the screen together. Um, and it was really quite amazing. And then after Richard Harris passed, and they brought in the new guy, and who's no slouch, a wonderful actor, a wonderful actor, does a great job at the King's Speech. Um, uh, uh, you see his role becoming more important, not just for what's actually in the storyline, but just carrying the film. And he does such a great job carrying the whole story without becoming the story.
Right.
And that is really amazing. When you see his character evolve, and from this guy that just nobody, that all the kids are afraid of, to this guy who's really a hero, and just amazing. So I'm sorry for stealing your thunder, Karen. I just got all excited and
I didn't think. No, oh well. No worries. We're all in this together. It's kind of interesting because I think one of the stories, the running thing that you hear on movie sets is that in the pecking order, the writers are pretty low on the totem pole, and then there's a very strong hierarchy on a movie set that you generally don't breach, and the writers are not that high up. So, and I think what exemplifies this is that J.K. Rowling was the author of the Harry Potter series, and she wrote the Severus Snape character with Alan Rickman in mind, and he was her original choice to play that character, but he didn't get that role originally. The person who got the role was Tim Roth, another fine actor, but it would have been a totally different take, I think, on that character if he'd gotten it. The only reason that Alan Rickman got to do the role in the movie was because Tim Roth backed out to do
Right.
Planet of the Apes. So it was like, I think it's one of those divine intervention moments where, and I'm sure J.K. Rowling was doing the happy dance when she found out that Tim Roth couldn't do the Severus Snape role.
You know what? I don't think I could. And it's funny because you don't see the other character play the role, so you don't really know
Right.
whether or not that person's going to be good or not. But I'm telling you, as I look at this film, I'm a Harry Potter fan. I was looking at some Harry Potter footage earlier, and I just think he was made for this role. She did the right thing in maybe in her mind, in her heart, in the prayers that went out for Alan Rickman to finally be the actual person to play Snape in the films, and he did a wonderful job. I love his character in the Harry Potter movies. I really do. So I'll be honest. I maybe it's just me. Haven't seen a lot of all of his films because I haven't found one of the films that I've seen, of the films that have been mentioned tonight that I've seen, because I've seen all the ones that were mentioned tonight, and I haven't seen one that I didn't like him in. I think that is a testament to how fine an actor this guy really was.
I'm going to go back a few years, and I'm having a conversation. I'm having lunch with an old friend, and I wanted to know more Alan Rickman films, and I looked at IMDb, and I knew some of them, but I knew this friend of mine was an Alan Rickman fan, and he introduced me to a whole bunch of films that Rickman, made a good mark, on the screen. And I started there. I started looking at these different films, and then it was like anything with him in it is going to be a delightful experience, at least from his character's point of view. Now, I got to say this, all due respect, some of the characters he played, the writing for that character was not well done. In Truly, Madly, Deeply. Or is it Truly, Deeply, Madly? Which one is it?
It's Truly, Madly, Deeply.
Right.
Thank you. I think he did great job. I don't think his character was written very well. And I think that the success of that film, one of the reasons why, is because he was able to pull things out of that script that should have been there but wasn't. Um, and there are a lot of films like that with him in it, where just we I would like to see the actual script he was given rather than what he ended up with. Some of these characters are just not very well developed. They were almost two-dimensional. He gave them dimensionality, and that's really nice.
Right, right.
Yeah, I think an example of that would be in The Butler, Lee Daniels' The Butler from 3 years ago. He played Ronald Reagan in that movie. Small role, but also not especially well fleshed out, in my opinion. But I thought he came across as a very believable Ronald Reagan, even though he didn't have a lot of screen time.
Yeah.
You know, the method or the essence of a true actor doesn't always need a lot of screen time, just to make that screen time very poignant and worth the view. I attribute that to, like, Viola Davis, for example, in Doubt. Her role in Doubt was minuscule by any means, but relative and poignant enough to get nominated for an Academy Award. I mean, it just depends on, like you were saying, Larry, not so much always a good script, not always the great lines, but how they're delivered and what we get out of it by the actor who's portraying it, who's giving us a sense of realness, trueness,
right.
That's in their delivery. That's what really matters the most. There's a movie out there, it's called Something the Lord Made, and this
TV movie, HBO movie,
right? Yeah,
one of my favorites.
Yeah, this is made with Mos Def and Alan Rickman. They're in a partnership in a situation where racism was relevant in this situation, but yet these two are able to work together and build something that's relative and important in the world, in the world of medicine. In fact, I have a picture here of them together in this film, Something the Lord Made. Alan Rickman is special in that he is again able to portray and get across the true essence of a person. And we're not looking at them as actors portraying these characters, but these characters coming to life, showing us that larger than life sometimes is part of life. And Alan Rickman does a really good job in this film. I actually really liked him in this film. And I wasn't, it didn't hit me right away who he was as far as the actor, because I was so into the story already.
Yeah, he was excellent in that movie.
Yeah, and it didn't matter, yeah.
I remember when that movie was presented by HBO, and I couldn't wait to see it. And I thought the movie just overall was very well done. Mos Def isn't somebody else who's a really fine actor. I mean, he's a rap star, he's a hip hop artist and singer songwriter, but he's actually a pretty good actor too. I mean, I really liked him. And there, it's like, you know, it's so important for both characters to be strong. I mean, right. You could have had Alan Rickman just walk all over the movie with somebody of lesser caliber playing, I think he was playing Dr. Drew in that movie. You know, he could have just walked it, but it was a partnership, not only in real life. Not only was the movie about a real life partnership, but there was an actual partnership going on in the making of the movie, which is so important, and it really made the story one that was interesting to tell.
Yeah.
Now, did either of you see A Noble Son?
No, I've never seen that.
2007. It stars Rickman, Brian Greensburg. Interesting film. It's done well. Good acting jobs. it's a young this young scientist, and he's pursuing his PhD. Is just about to seal the deal when his father, played by Alan Rickman, wins a Nobel Prize for chemistry. So it's a really good film with that this age old conflict between father and son. It's worthwhile.
Nobel. It's called Nobel, son.
A Noble Son. Or
No,
Noble
I think
Son.
it's Nobel. It's
I
Nobel,
believe it is
Nobel. Okay. No, in IMDb it's called Nobel Son, Nobel,
Yes.
as in Nobel Prize.
I keep on calling it A Noble Son, but yes, you're absolutely correct.
It's a comedy and as well as a drama, and it has, I guess, a crime in it too somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And directed by Randall Miller.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as you see, we're pretty much fans of this remarkable actor. And so many different films that we've mentioned tonight. I hope that you're able to kind of jot down what we've said, and if not, you just play this over again, and you'll hear all the different great movies that we're talking about here.
You know, one thing I'd like to add, Greg, and this is in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. His death scene is one of the most memorable cinematic death scenes one will ever see.
Yeah.
and it you know, I could take in movies like that, I could take Kevin Costner and throw him away and just cut out, just put a blank space wherever he was, and have Cartman from South Park do the voice. That worked for me.
Right.
But Alan Rickman in this film, again, the script was not written for him. It wasn't, and he made so much out of it. You got to give him just a standing ovation just for what he was able to pull out of that.
And now, is this in the Robin? Which movie are we talking about now?
Yeah, Prince of Thieves, the Robin Hood, where he
in
plays
the Prince of
sheriff.
Thieves, yes. Well, yes, I would definitely if we could just have that whole movie reissue with just him in it and nobody else, that would be fine with me.
Oh, and you know what? I even have a title for it. Nottingham, a sheriff's story.
I love it. I think that's a fine idea.
Nottingham, a sheriff's story.
But you know, it's great because if you take a look at the films that he was in, the characters he portrayed, make no mistake, you always knew that it was him, but you never let that get in the way of the film, the character he was portraying. Unlike some great actors, either they dissolve completely in the role, which is fine, or it's obvious they're just, you know, they just don't know how to do what he does. His command of the craft was excellent. I'm just thrilled. Take time. Some of these movies are not highly rated. Who cares? He does a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed him. We had a show on holiday movies. What's right and wrong with holiday movies? And one of the movies that we talked about in that show was Love Actually.
Uh-huh.
And the character that he played in Love Actually, I mean, here he's playing an everyman. It's just not a particularly distinguished person, but you know, it's still captivating to watch, even though the person as written was not that interesting. He was a guy having a midlife crisis, and you just see him succumbing to the midlife crisis, and you really don't want him to, because it's like no good can come of this. You root for him because you see yourself in him, which is again something else that he was able to do. He was able to create a connection, a sympathetic connection between you and the character when it was called for. And so I really enjoyed watching him in Love Actually, even though I didn't particularly like the person he was playing. I didn't particularly like that person, but really interesting to watch. So yeah, he's a consummate actor. He really is. He will very much be missed.
Yeah, I must admit, like we said, the many roles that he's had, whether they be big or small, I was always impressed. That's the true essence of a good actor. It doesn't matter if it's big or small. It always comes out to be very important because of the portrayal that's facilitated by this actor.
Yeah.
And the fact that when I first heard the news that he had passed, I was set aback really because I enjoy this guy so much that I won't be able to see him conquer other roles.
Right.
So I'll just have to do what I do with many of the other wonderful actors that I've been able to come across in my short life and um, watch those films again. I have another Galaxy Quest in my near future. It'll be the fourth time I've seen it, but but I'm just gonna have to do that. I'm just gonna have to do that, ladies and
I
gentlemen.
have to do it too. Well, I've already seen it 4 times. I have to see it 5 times.
And my third Quigley Down Under is gonna have to come into play. And my second one, the movie with what God has made, what the Lord has made.
Something the Lord has made.
That'll be my second time seeing that one, and on and on and on. I've seen every film at least once, and most likely twice.
Did you see his portrayal of Rasputin?
I did. It was brilliant.
What's that in?
It's a TV movie, actually.
It's an HBO film and done for HBO, and he plays the title role of Rasputin.
He was brilliant in that movie.
Yeah, incredibly brilliant.
Well, I'm gonna see it now.
Yeah. Yes, you can, Greg. You can. He was awesome. So definitely check it out.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick to it too.
And I've seen Sense and Sensibility at least 8 times, so I will be watching it for the 9th time because I just loved. Oh my God, he was such a heartthrob in that movie. Oh.
I haven't seen Sense and Sensibility more than twice, so if I see it again, it will be my 3rd time because I thought Emma was wonderful, and I thought the movie as a whole was really, really well done.
No, I wanted Colonel Brandon to come and just take care of me. I'll be sick. I'll take Kate Winslet's place, and you can take care of me.
I'll tell you, there's several reasons why Sense and Sensibility worked, because a lot of stuff was against it going in, but you had Emmett Thompson writing, helping with the screenwriting for it. You had you had Alan Rickman playing this dashing young man, and then you had Ang Lee directing it.
Wow! Now isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Who said you have to have hop chop and martial arts? You could have Ang Lee without all that, and still win.
And it's like, whoa! So this is one of those odd pairings where you see all these people and they come together and they do something that is remarkable, and it's a fun movie to watch. I know that whenever it's on television, I know that I'm not supposed to talk because my wife is into it. So.
And you're not supposed to for your own self, buddy.
That's right.
It's just a darn good movie. It is actually, when I first saw it, I wasn't sure if I was going to like it or not. And it didn't take long for it to take with me. And, of course, my wife liked it, too. We both enjoyed the film
It's
together.
one of the best adaptations of an Austen novel, I think, ever in film, really. I mean, people talk about Jane Eyre, and it's worth talking about Jane Eyre, especially the version of Jane Eyre with, oh, God, I just lost his name. Who Who starred in Citizen Kane?
Orson Welles.
Yes. I mean, people like to talk about Jane Eyre, and it's worth talking about Jane Eyre. Although it's the Charlotte Bronte novel, but it's often compared. People like to talk about Persuasion or the films with Mr. Darcy or whatever. But this one, I love the detail and the care that Emma Thompson took in bringing this film to the big screen, and it seemed like a big screen type of picture. And a lot of other adaptations of Austen novels seem more like made-for-TV type. They come across as more made-for-TV type movies, not quite deserving of big screen treatment, but Sense and Sensibility has a grandeur to it that I think deservedly puts it up on the big screen. And a lot of it was just brilliant casting too. Because having Hugh Grant playing the love interest for Emma Thompson's character, again, great casting. Because Hugh Grant has really not been served well by his American movies, in my opinion, although I'm sure he's made a crap load of money from them. And there's a particular, sort of supercilious character that they always have him playing, and he does that well enough. I get tired of seeing him like that because I know there's so many more dimensions to him, and he's a really fine actor. And he gets to show that, I think, in Sense and Sensibility, where he's not playing some, fop or some sort of self-absorbed, narcissistic, typical male, in the stereotypical sense type male. So I really enjoyed this movie for that, and for Kate Winslet, who I thought did a wonderful job in this movie, and Emma Thompson. I love the sisterhood between them, the way they fought. They come across like sisters. I have a sister, I know. Sisters fight just the way they fight. It gets kind of mean sometimes. And they did that beautifully. And the other, Hugh Laurie was really wonderful. Again, brilliant, understated, and not a huge role, but just awesome in what he brought to bear in that role. So anyway, you can tell it's one of my favorite movies. I just love this movie.
I couldn't tell.
I can watch it again and again and again.
If you want to see something that's really amazing, where you can see before he becomes what we know of him, is in the first thing that he ever did, and I actually searched for it and found it, Romeo and Juliet, and he plays Juliet's cousin, Tybalt. If you know the play, you know that Tybalt is a very brash brash character. He likes to fight, and he wins fights. And Tybalt is an incredible, difficult character to play. Other than Mercutio, Tybalt's the next most difficult character to play in that film, other than the two leads, or in that play. And he does a rather wonderful Tybalt. Now, I don't agree with how the film was cut. I don't agree with how the play was cut. But that being said, he really again, you can see the blossoming of a young actor there, and that was done in 1978.
Wow.
So if you want to go down to his youth, Your Honor, these two youths, you will see a guy who's got a lot of promise.
He's kind of an old youth, actually, because he didn't even start acting till he was 26. He was a graphic designer, and actually a pretty successful graphic designer before he went into acting, but he always had a love of theater. In fact, the theater remained his first love even after becoming a film star. He went back to the theater, and I'm sure the they loved him at the West End and on Broadway, wherever he decided to grace the stage, because I'm sure he did exactly that. I wish I could have seen him in a stage play.
Yeah, that would have been nice. Yeah. Well, thanks, my cousin Larry, for your finding youth and his early acting.
Well, here, there's a marvelous picture of him to show you how young he looked in that as Tybalt. And
Gregory just put it up.
there it is. It's amazing when you see that and you go, oh my goodness.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How young is that?
Pretty young.
It's pretty young.
I mean, in that movie, he's probably just 30. He's probably 32.
Yeah, so very, very good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've kind of come to the end of our program for this evening. I hope you enjoyed our banter about one of the finest actors of modern times, and in Alan Rickman. He's a marvelous actor, great storyteller, and all right, funny guy when it comes down to it. He has all those intangibles that we look for all the time in an actor, and he just made film watching that much more enjoyable and entertaining. So, any final words, Larry and Karen, about your remembering Alan Rickman?
Well, if you were here today, I'd say thank you. Thank you for what he gave to the craft and to the audiences.
And I guess I would echo that too. I would agree. I'm just, we're lucky that we have him on film.
Yeah.
Because we can return to those performances again and again. And like you said, Gregory, you would love to see Galaxy Quest again and Sense and Sensibility again. And I'm ready to watch Die Hard now. I want to remember exactly. I want to remind myself exactly why Hans Gruber just captivated me so quickly when I saw Die Hard, because he pretty much kind of stole that film from Bruce Willis. I mean, it was a robbery, and he wasn't charged, but he could have been, because he was so good in that movie. And I mean, maybe he didn't like being called a villain to end all villains, but he deserved to be one of the top 10 villains. He just nailed it. So
He nailed it. He
nailed it. So I would say also thank you to Alan Rickman, who is one of my favorite actors and has been for a long time.
Well, that's our show for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Please come back again, hang out with us here on Google Plus / the YouTube channel at A Real Point of View. You can see our archive shows there and this current show there if you want to review it again, to, if nothing else, gather all the names of the wonderful movies that we've mentioned throughout the broadcast this evening. We're glad that you hung out with us and invite you back again and hope to see you again. And thanks again for listening and watching us here on A Real Point of View. And one last thing, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you go out and see a really good movie. Not that hard to find, and we hope that we've been helpful and inspirational in you finding those movies. Take care, everybody, and stay blessed. Good night.
Good night.